first thing that Hoover says is when Dominic Casey was on the cell phone in the video, right after he hung up, he told Hoover, we have to go to another spot. And then they went right to this house. And then Dominic Casey went right to the left side of the house and was immediately focused on black trash bags on the left side of the house and started cutting them open as soon as the camera got there. What does that tell you?
Obviously, Mr. Casey was receiving instructions over the phone from someone who was directing him to that location and specifically to look in those plastic bags and to dig in the area which he ultimately was digging.
Which tells you what?
Tells me that the evidence is mounting. It was a suspicion at first, but the evidence certainly seems to be mounting that this was a staged event for the benefit of the defense.
What do you think the significance is of the house being owned by a Gonzalez family?
It's apparent that Kaylee's mother pieces together bits of information to create some plausible story. So if a tape were going to be made that were to benefit the defense, what better location to go than to go to an abandoned home where there is someone who used to live there by the name of Gonzalez. Doesn't matter whether the spelling is the same or not. And by the way, I don't believe in coincidence, and there's too many coincidences in this case to believe that, oh my gosh, this is just all a large cosmic coincidence. It is, again, more evidence that is consistent with the theory that this was a staged event. Now, it was not smartly staged, and I would certainly say that, again, either Investigator Casey is guilty of being a poor investigator or he's guilty of being a bad actor. And as the evidence mounts, it looks more like he's just a bad actor and gets no Academy Award for this performance.
Hoover says that when they were out there in November, that he asked Dominic Casey whether the Anthonys knew that they were doing this in November, going to the scene, going to the woods, going to the house. And Dominic Casey told Hoover, yes, they did know. Hoover says then on December 18th, Dominic Casey tells Hoover that that house is owned by a Gonzalez family. And Hoover's thought is, if Dominic Casey knew that that house was owned by a Gonzalez family and the Anthonys knew he was there and knew about it, why didn't they call authorities and have a SWAT team at that house?
That is spot on exactly what would happen. And again, more evidence that, in fact, this was not a legitimate search for the body, that this was a staged event. And that is a very damning piece of information that is consistent more with it being a staged event than it was a legitimate search for this baby's remains. If the grandparents believed the child was alive at that time, what in the world would cause them not to immediately contact investigators trained to investigate crime scenes to go out there, isolate it, and do their investigation? You tell me, what other explanation could you come up with other than it is a staged performance that we're looking at?